So, hi. Officially, my name is Jazmin Muratalla-Sanchez, and I'm a marketing student taking IMC. Um, could you tell us maybe a little bit about yourself, your time, here at Western, like what you studied, if you had any other majors or minors, that kind of thing?
Yeah. Well, to introduce myself, my name's Clay Ashworth. I went to Western for 2 years only, so it was a very short span of time. But yeah, it was like kind of like my final destination from like 5 different colleges. I bounced around from junior college, played sports at a couple of colleges, and I just kind of, followed baseball and didn't really care about school. So um didn't really have a plan in mind besides like physical therapy, like a typical athlete. I'm gonna be in the kinesiology program or whatever. Turned out I sucked at biology and all that jazz. So it was just like way too hard. I didn't want to go through all that ruckus. Um, so I fell into photography after my baseball career was over. So I picked up photography and I fell in love with it. And I did that for about like 2 years while also doing online business school through Central. And that's what kind of pushed me to do marketing. So um, I was like, I might as well go to school to help my photography career. So I'll do marketing, learn how to market my business and all that stuff. And so yeah, fell in love with marketing after that, realized that it wasn't just advertisements and social media. Um, yeah, a brief general overview of my journey at Western. So
Yeah, thank you.
yeah.
That's super funny that you went from doing like something completely different in STEM to going into
Yeah.
business marketing.
Yeah.
What pushed you towards applying to Western's marketing program specifically at
Yeah.
Western?
It's not a very glamorous story, but I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I didn't know. The only thing I knew is that I wanted to live in Western Washington because I'm from Eastern Washington, and I always
Oh,
wanted
okay.
to live in Western Washington. I knew I couldn't get into UW, so I was like, I'll go to Western.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see what's going on up in Bellingham. But at first, I like entered the biology track at Western, and
Mm-hmm.
I was like, screw this, I'm out. And yeah, I felt like, I have a passion, love for photography, and I thought marketing was like the most applicable degree I could get,
Mm-hmm.
that I could apply to photography.
Mm-hmm.
So
Okay, cool.
nothing really specific that like
It's just
drew me to WWU
mm-hmm.
marketing, but it just kind of fell into place, and yeah, fell in love with the Western marketing program, and um, it's taught me a ton.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of had a similar experience with marketing. I wanted to do design, and everyone told me I should get a business degree, and they're like, go and do that. And I was like, marketing, that's close to design stuff. I'll go do
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
um,
Well, I have some advice for you. Don't let
mhm.
me forget that advice,
Okay.
specifically about design. Yeah, and
Okay.
marketing. So
I would very much appreciate it, and I'm sure other students would too. The other question that I had was from taking all marketing courses, with different professors and stuff, which was your favorite marketing course at your time
yeah,
at Western?
like 110% the class that you guys are in right now. Like I even messaged Dan like 2 weeks ago over Teams. I was like, dude, literally everything in IMC I do every day at my job. Like it's insane how applicable it is to real
Mhm.
life. Like specifically like a marketing coordinator specialist, like entry level marketing person. Like
Mhm.
literally we do a stand up every day. Like we have Kanbans, we have little tasks that we, check off digitally, like
Mhm.
everything. Creative
Mhm.
briefs, like we have a project manager, we have managers underneath her, and then like the content creation team. Like it's dumb how accurate it is. That's what I'm gonna say. It's like it's crazy that that it's so similar. But um to go a little deeper, yeah, Dan's IMC class specifically,
Mm-hmm.
and I think it's very specific to like a marketing coordinator job. Like I said, like if you're going into data analytics and all that stuff, like some stuff might apply, but specifically like if you're going to create content or, deal with social media and emails and stuff like that,
Mm-hmm.
which is what I fell into. Um, yeah, IMC hands down, like the best.
I'm sure he'd love to hear that.
Yeah,
um,
I make sure to tell him every couple months. So
yeah. So speaking of IMC, is there anything particular that you remember from that class that you, I don't know, maybe you use a lot currently in your job? It
yeah.
sounds like everything, or if maybe something that maybe you didn't know beforehand that kind of like a light bulb moment sort of happened for you in that class?
Um, I think, I mean, while in the class, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
you get to learn the process of like how a marketing team works.
Mm-hmm.
Like you know that's how it works just through school, but until you get into the real world, you don't really know. So
Mm-hmm.
I jumped into this job and I was like, oh shit, this is like exactly the same. I've done this shit every day for the past 2 years, like crazy. Um, but from like a personal experience, it taught me how to like it taught me how to speak because
Mm-hmm.
very and Dan could tell you this because I had um I had trouble speaking like in class, like sharing my thoughts and being confident in my thoughts. Ideas, creative ideas, wasn't confident in like saying them or bring them to fruition, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I ended up being a host on the freaking podcast. So like the quietest guy in the room, not confident, ends up being one of the hosts. And like, and that's not the only avenue you can practice like public speaking or just being confident in your words. But that's just the piece of IMC that I did was the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
And I think like what you're doing right now, like it's probably going to help you next quarter or even like down the road at a job, like just speaking to other people.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that was the biggest thing was being able to like be confident in a thought or a creative idea because it's true, like meetings every morning, stand-ups, it's like marketing team, you got to come up with some stuff, like whether
Mm-hmm.
it's on the fly or you have an idea for content or whatever it may be. Like it's taught me to be confident in those ideas, which allows me to open up my creativity and like just allow things to flow in without being like timid or you know second guessing.
I feel like he definitely gets people out of their shells and more confident, especially
Absolutely.
when I did market research.
Yeah.
That was definitely one. So moving away from kind of like past in school, what do you do currently now for work?
Yeah, my position is marketing coordinator, and I work for
Mm-hmm.
a company called Ram Mounts.
Mm-hmm.
So we're like a rugged mounting company who deals with like GPS devices, phones, um, like warehouse devices, like manufacturing devices.
Mm-hmm.
But basically, we're just like a really rugged phone mount for multiple things, um, like stuff like anything. Like our tagline is mount anything anywhere. So
Okay.
it's like we have a bunch of products for a whole bunch of different devices and a whole bunch of different companies and workforces. So that's the company I work for. But what I do specifically is social media, email campaigns,
Mm-hmm.
a little bit of graphic design, starting to progress. Um, Most of all, just like creating content as
Okay.
like the biggest part of my job. I do photography, video. I do a lot of editing, like with photography and video. Um, I'm in Adobe Suite a lot, so
Mhm.
that's kind of what I work amongst. Um, as far as like emails, putting together email campaigns every week, which are big. So like an
Mhm.
email campaign involves an email, social media on every platform, and um, yeah, I guess that's pretty much it. But
Okay.
yeah, I'm sure there's more, but that's the
Okay.
gist of it.
Cool. So you would say, like, to describe your day to day, kind of what you do, is there like maybe a rhythm that you kind of fall into, something that you do every single time,
Mm,
every single day, every week?
The only thing that's consistent is a stand up in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
Like, excuse me. Um, yeah, so we have stand-ups in the morning, 30 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it's not exactly like how Dan does it. Like you stand up and, whatever the three things are, I don't remember what they were.
Mm-hmm.
We don't really do that. It's just kind of like a touch base. What are you doing? The project manager follows up, hey, how are you on this project? Like all that.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty much the only consistent thing. But my job is it's not like all over the place, but it's different every day.
Okay.
And it's like you kind of know what you're doing, but you kind of don't. So it varies. Like at home, so it's hybrid. So it's 3 days in office, 2 days at home. So when I'm at the office, I'm taking photos, video, working with people as much as possible.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I'm home, I do a lot of editing and like copywriting and all that stuff. So it just kind of like bounces back and forth. Like today, I've filmed video for 2 hours and then edited photos and edited video. And then the next day, I might just be writing social media captions or creating Instagram stories or whatever. Like it just depends. And it's so on the fly since we're in-house marketing. We're not an agency, so it's very much like, hey, our product's ready to go, promote it on social media, like go. And we're like, oh shit, go, 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 go. So anything can change,
Mm-hmm.
which is good because I can't, well, I can, but I would prefer to be all over the place than stick to one straight line.
Yeah. Yeah. So
So
you mentioned a lot of like photography and stuff like that. Um, how does that affect you as a marketer, and how does it help you, I guess? Is it like a
yeah,
creative avenue for you, that kind of stuff?
yeah. So in my personal life, like I'm a photographer. Like that's my side gig.
Mm-hmm.
That's what like brought me to marketing. So I mean, I practice photography every day, like without question. Like it just happens.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I was just doing what I loved. And then this position specifically was like needed a marketing person to handle social media and emails who also knew how to handle a camera. It pretty much got me the career because like once you get into photography, you have an eye for like what looks good. You have an eye for like I don't know how to explain it,
Like
but like
composition, things like that.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And that's pretty much marketing. Like you have to everything must look good, everything must like be appealing. So you
Mm-hmm.
kind of already have that mindset of like I want to see good stuff. Like I don't want to see crap. Um so yeah, and also like being a photographer, you're on social media, you're presenting yourself on social media, you're posting your work, and that's a big thing too is like because I was just into my photography, like I wanted to share it and I felt like I presented myself well with my
Mm-hmm.
business or like my side gig. And that was also like a big upside because like there's a presence instead of, somebody who may not have an social media or like may not do anything on it or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm very fortunate. Like I'm fortunate, but also like I was just following what I love to do. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you had a passion and that led you towards that.
Yeah.
That's super cool.
Yeah. And then like marketing, I fell in love with marketing afterwards. I was just like, I'm going to school, gonna learn how to market my photography business. But then I fell in love with marketing. So
mhm.
it like just intertwines really well.
Yeah, like you can do both and support your hobby, your
Absolutely.
photography, and also do marketing. That's super cool.
Hmm.
Um, when you were at Western and in the marketing program, was there anything that maybe helped shape you and helped your growth as a marketer?
Yeah. I think dance class is so separated from the others for me. Like
Mm-hmm.
dance class, IMC specifically, was just like so impactful for me
Mm-hmm.
because like learning learning the creative brief and learning how to build a brand that way, like
Mm-hmm.
I literally was in class, my gears were just turning because I was just thinking about my business. I was thinking about my photography and like how, okay, like I didn't know this. How do I build my brand? Like
Mm-hmm.
I think that being in that class and learning, like even in the beginning stages of IMC, like where you're drawing out those pictures and like all the systems, like that's what got my gears turning and like, okay, this is what I want to do. This is sick. Like
Mm-hmm.
just literally what's going on around the world with every company, and like it's so creative, and
Mm-hmm.
you learn the processes, you learn like everything that goes into it. So
Mm-hmm.
um that's I think that's what was like the biggest inspiration, or the biggest like light switch. Like this is what I want
Mm-hmm.
to do. I don't know. I didn't really have any other experiences like that with anybody else.
That's cool. I was actually gonna ask a follow-up question about that. For your portfolio, like the website that you
Yeah.
know how to make at the end of that, did you use that for your maybe not current position, but did you use it professionally as in for like your future projects to show off maybe your photography or other kind of marketing
Yeah.
skills?
Well, it was funny because I had a website like before I even went to Western, like with my
Mm-hmm.
photography stuff. But the project with IMC was a little different, a different layout. Like I couldn't just, put my photos up there and whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But I did. Like I positioned my website around photography um, through Dan, because that's what I wanted to do. Like I wanted to just like promote my business.
Mm-hmm.
And I also had a section about my marketing, like, my podcast and all my creative briefs. Like I had that all in there.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I mean, it was there for a bit. I kept that up for a while. But I just decided to it was a personal decision. I decided to like just switch into full photography and like took out my
Mm-hmm.
marketing stuff. I felt like once I got into a job, like my resume with all this stuff that I'm doing now would kind of be that like showcase of marketing experience.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I ended up taking out all of my like Western stuff off the website.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if you guys have seen anything, but yeah, it's all
Mm-hmm.
photography. So
Yeah, that's cool though that you
I don't know if
still
I
have.
answered your question.
Yeah, you did. The question was more of just like if that helped you like get a job or
Gotcha.
like in the future, that kind of thing.
Gotcha. I don't know. Like they may have looked at it, but they may not
Hmm.
have.
Hmm.
I think it's important to have some sort of like showcase of something,
Hmm.
but I'm not sure. I don't know.
Hmm.
Maybe,
And
maybe
I mean,
not.
it
They didn't tell me.
definitely helped with your photography. I think it
Mhm.
makes sense that you would take out the marketing since your
Yeah.
business, is focused more on photography, so it's more specialized.
Totally.
Um,
Yeah, and I had the little like couldn't figure it out. I didn't know what to do. So, I was talking with Dan. He wouldn't give me an answer. So he would just, you got to do what you want to do, and like gave me options to work with. So I decided to like hedge both of them, which
mhm.
was fine, but I just ended up doing more business. So,
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. What is your dream position, and are you maybe possibly working towards that position?
I don't know if I have a specific position. All I want to
Mhm.
do is create. All I want to do is like be creative in some way. Like
Mhm.
I don't I honestly don't care what the position is. Like as long as I can be behind a camera or in Illustrator or Photoshop, like whatever, as long as
Mhm.
I'm like able to create stuff, that's
Mhm.
great.
Yeah.
That's all I can ask for. And that's I didn't know that until like recently. Like I just started this job in May, and
Mhm.
I just went into it not really knowing what this position was, but
Mhm.
um, but it's a very common position, like entry level, like right out of college. And the more and more I get into it, and the more and more they let me be free and like experiment with stuff, the more and more I'm like, I s- I literally don't even know how long I've been at the office when I'm creating. Like it's just crazy. So
Mhm.
as long as I'm creating, that's all I care about.
Mhm.
And as long as I'm able to channel my creativity that's outside of work, like into work, or like it fuels my passion outside of work, like that's what I'm looking
Mhm.
for.
Mhm. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's cool. And I guess you mentioned this like a little earlier too, but I guess as a kind of a final question to wrap everything up, is there any sort of tips or advice that you would give to, the future marketers who are currently in the marketing program?
Yeah. The number one thing, and I said it without saying it, but like do or find something else, like find a different skill. Like
Mhm.
leave college with a degree and then like a strong skill in something. So like for me it was photography. Like I had a degree, I have a strong skill in photography.
Mhm.
And that's what got me the job. Like it may have like had me skip interviews. Like they just bumped me to the front because I don't know what they did, but
Mhm.
it was very quick. So if you have some sort of passion or creativity, hobby or whatever it is, and I think you should, because being a marketer, like you need to be creative. Like I mean,
Mhm.
unless you're doing like data analytics or marketing analytics and all that stuff. But
Mhm.
specifically, if you're in a creative role, doing social media and doing hip stuff, like trendy stuff, like you got to be creative. So
Mhm.
whatever it may be, like graphic design, photography, video, like just create shit.
Mhm.
And then have some sort of something to present or like to
Mhm.
show, um because everybody just like has a degree,
Mhm.
you know what I mean? And if you have something else, then that might like speed it up a little bit.
For students who are in the marketing program right now, what is something that maybe you wish you would have done or maybe paid attention to more as a marketing student, or
Mhm.
maybe a resource or a class or something that you're like, man, I should have been doing this, or maybe I should have gotten ahead
Yeah,
doing this? What would you suggest students to do?
create more, like
Mhm.
whether that be with like projects. I don't know what you guys are doing now, but like the social media, whatever, like dive into other stuff, like dive into Photoshop and Illustrator, whatever, like if you have time. But
Mhm.
I wish I learned that a lot sooner. Like I wish I learned design a lot sooner, because design is very, like literally every single marketer on our marketing team, I think we have a team of 8, is like has a graphic design background. Like they
Mhm.
came in as a graphic designer and they worked their way up. And now they
Mhm.
can be like a project manager who also graphic designs. That's my answer.
Yeah, no, definitely that makes sense. I feel like there aren't too many program or classes
Yeah.
like that, unfortunately. Right now, they're taking away that minor, the UX UI, for marketing students, unfortunately. But
Damn.
I do agree that, design is like communication for
Mhm.
anything and everyone. Like
Yeah,
visuals, pictures will speak 1,000 words, like you need
absolutely.
to have those skills to be able to put things together cohesively.
Yeah.
So I guess that kind of comes back to I guess your advice that you would give about design is like for students to maybe like, hey, you should also consider, even if you're not the most creative person, like to have these understanding of these like basic elements as a marketer.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's my answer. Design more, create more.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. But yeah, I think that about wraps up our interview. Thank you so much for taking your time to talk with us. And